Even a decade out from its initial release, Dying Light is hands down the best open-world zombie game. From its incredibly satisfying combat, addictive parkour system, fully co-opable campaign, to that iconic main theme that you're hearing right now. But before we dive into the game itself, let's talk about the year that Dying Light came out. The zombie craze has long come and gone by our present day, but even a decade ago, the oversaturation had kind of already set in. Like any trend, it exploded in popularity for a reason. There were some absolute bangers. The early seasons of the Walking Dead TV show is often cited as the specific origin for the genre's explosion, and being so popular, the opposite applies too. When the show began losing viewers, it also signaled a broader loss of interest. Despite this downturn, a diamond in the rough appeared, created by Techland, a game studio most well known for hits like Pet Racer and FIM Speedway Grand Prix. Alright, that joke kinda sucked. What made Dying Light so special? Well, it might have literally been the only good zombie game? Well, maybe not the only good one. I already mentioned COD Zombies and Left 4 Dead as examples, but narrative-focused titles like The Last of Us and Telltale's The Walking Dead game were also amazing. But none of these titles were aiming to do what Dying Light did. Let me explain. You're given near complete freedom to explore Harran just moments after completing the tutorial, and this freedom is beautifully complemented by the game's focus on its free-running and movement mechanics. Despite Dying Light giving you all the tools to run past any and all detail of its world, I still find myself exploring Harran at a walking pace, taking in all the atmosphere that Techland injected into every nook and cranny. This is a good place to mention the masterfully crafted immersion, from its haunting ambient music tracks and subtle sound effects constantly filling the air, shattering glass, the distant echoes of doors being bust down, and so much more. It all comes together to create an incredibly unnerving atmosphere, one that'll have you looking over your shoulder constantly. From the scattered evidence of survivors to rooftop messages pleading for help, the city manages to feel simultaneously lived in and lost to the apocalypse. But what really sets it apart is how believable the city feels, not just as a post-apocalyptic ruin, but as a place that once hosted regular life too. The slums surrounding the tower were clearly never luxurious. Heavy metal doors are standard on every home, and nearly every window is reinforced with thick iron bars. Even before the outbreak, this was obviously a city shaped by hard times, one that was on the path to improvement, but derailed entirely by the apocalypse. It's a perfect setting for the genre, both visually and mechanically. The sea of flat rooftops make for the ultimate parkour playground, giving you plenty of opportunities to weave through and escape the horde. But what really brings that parkour to life is just how meticulously Harran is designed. Every single rooftop, ledge, window frame, and pipe feels both realistic and also conveniently placed to be climbable, and nearly every building is scalable in this way. Once you've thoroughly explored the slums and mastered your movement within them, the narrative throws a curveball with another major area opening up: Old Town. Gone are the flat tin rooftops and cramped alleyways. They've been replaced with opulent architecture that towers all around you. The streets open up, making it far easier to avoid the horde, but it also comes at the detriment of the gaps between buildings growing larger. A simple leap between buildings in Old Town can prove fatal if you don't stick the landing. This part of the game is also when you roughly unlock the grappling hook, and this thing is awesome. You'd think an ability like it might ruin the parkour, but somehow it isn't the case at all. It's a perfectly tuned feature that serves to support the parkour rather than replace it. Beyond the level design, what exactly does Dying Light offer in the minute-to-minute gameplay? The standard fare applies: main quests, side quests, scavenging, crafting, and plenty of combat with both zombies and humans. But what really ties everything together is just how satisfying that fundamental gameplay is. There's no holding back in giving you a vast range of abilities to utilize against the undead threat. Crane is a former soldier and current mercenary, and the skill tree definitely reflects that. Dropkicks, vaults, slides, dodges, power attacks, just to name a few. And thankfully, it isn't quantity over quality. Every mechanic is incredibly satisfying in their own ways. More unique side objectives show up too, like clearing and reinforcing safe zones, time-sensitive supply drops, quarantine zone raids, and even parkour and combat challenges scattered throughout the map. The good times don't stop with the movement though. It extends to the combat as well. Every weapon feels fine-tuned. Bladed weapons are fast and dismember easily. Blunt weapons have more of a knockback or stunning effect. Firearms are powerful but attract zombies. And two-handed heavy weapons are devastating to larger hordes. You can even push your arsenal further by modding them, adding elements like fire, electricity, or even making weapons inflict poison or increase knockback. Finding new weapons is addicting in its own right. Scavenging locked vans, chests, or or even exploring overrun buildings always feels worth the risk, especially when it might reward you with your best weapon yet. Dying Light features a wide variety of infected types to utilize that equipment on. You've got your slow, classic biters, but also the fast, aggressive virals who show up if you attract them with noises. Then there's bloaters who spit toxic gas, bombers who detonate if you get too close, bolters that flee on sight but drop rare ingredients if killed, and of course the towering demolishers who hit like a truck. There's even more I haven't mentioned, but nevertheless every infected type feels distinct, both in how you approach them or avoid them, and that variety is exactly what keeps combat enjoyable in the long run. Another subtle but smart feature is how the difficulty naturally scales as you progress. Instead of just inflating health bars or damage numbers, Dying Light introduces the varied infected types as you level up. Basic zombies even begin to carry blunt weapons like hammers or pipes, making them more dangerous in close quarters. It's a great example of well-done difficulty progression. I'd also be remiss not to mention the flawless co-op that Dying Light supports. From just after the tutorial all the way to the final boss door, you can seamlessly play with up to 3 of your friends, and it very well might be the best co-op experience in any game I've ever played. It's chaotic, hilarious, and yet somehow never breaks the immersion. You'll go from quietly scavenging a dark building to running for your life across rooftops while your buddy gets mauled by a volatile in the distance. Yeah, I'll cover those guys in a moment. It's rare for a game this immersive to be this fun in a group, or to even work as smoothly as it does, but somehow it pulls it off effortlessly. There's no need to rejoin while someone watches a cutscene or turns in a side quest. It just works, and essentially has no restrictions on what you can or can't do in co-op, unlike another game that recently came out. Let me know if I should cover Monster Hunter Wilds in a future video. But getting back to Dying Light, co-op has spawned endless memes and funny moments, but it's also genuinely forged friendships, at least for me. Some of the best people I've met on the internet were people I randomly met through Dying Light 10 years ago. Co-op is an amazing feature that only serves to enhance your time with the title, both in gameplay and narrative. I've neglected to mention a key aspect of the gameplay up until this point. Good nights, good luck isn't just a marketing phrase for Dying Light, it's a catchy tagline for the best mechanic in the game. Nighttime in Harran is horrifying, doubly so in the early game. This is where the horror in survival horror comes to play. During the day, the slow, stumbling zombies are typically no match for your vast range of abilities, but when night falls in Harran, this dynamic entirely shifts. The tensest moment during the day isn't even comparable to the most standard of encounters after dark. The zombie hordes grow far more vicious, faster, and increase in number. You become the hunted after spending the daylight being the hunter. New enemies show up too, volatiles. I mentioned these guys a little bit ago. These are essentially super zombies, and your first encounter with them will have you second-guessing the safety of the rooftops. They'll chase you to the ends of the earth, and aren't bound by the rules of the basic undead. They can sprint and jump just as a player can. Their main weakness is UV light, so you certainly do have some tools to combat the volatiles early on, but make no mistake, they will still absolutely destroy you, especially if you can't evade them altogether or reach a safe zone before your UV runs out. Night introduces an entirely new perspective on Harran. Areas you confidently explored in sunlight now feel dangerous and unfamiliar. The same rooftops that once gave you freedom now become a fragile lifeline. Nighttime isn't just for risky thrills though, even with its double XP modifier. It's also the best time to slow down and prepare for the days ahead. There's no better time to pop into the safe zones and take a breather. You can craft, plan, upgrade, and prepare. And once you've had your first encounter with the volatiles at night, it finally gives you the crucial understanding of how important unlocking all these safe zones are. However, the dynamic shift after night won't always remain true. Dying Light encourages mastery through fear, clinging to rooftops and sprinting for safe zones at the first sign of danger. But slowly, it'll turn into confidence, especially once you unlock new abilities, master the layout of Harran, and upgrade your arsenal. By the end of it, you start hunting the monsters that once hunted you. And with the new title, Dying Light the Beast, just on the horizon, it looks like Techland might be returning to the grounded survival horror tone that made the original Dying Light so iconic, and it looks like it's shaping up to be the true successor to it. All of this and more is exactly why, even 10 years later, Dying Light is still open world zombie perfection.